Hi there, and welcome to a Chaotic Classroom clip. This one is aimed at both grade 8 and grade 9 learners studying natural sciences in the CAP syllabus, because it's something that a lot of grade 9 struggle with, and that is counting the atoms in a compound. Let's start by talking about oxygen. So when you write down oxygen, we write down O2, even though the chemical formula for oxygen is just an O. That means that when we draw oxygen, we are actually drawing two little balls next to each other, which we are going to be labeling with two O's. That means that there are two atoms of oxygen in an oxygen molecule. That is also where that little 2 comes from when we write O2. It shows us there's two atoms. Our next one would be salt. So salt is written as NaCl, also known as sodium chloride. When we draw this one, we are going to still draw two atoms or two little balls, but in this case, we're going to draw two that are different colors, or they need to be different in some way, because sodium is not the same as chlorine. It is also a good idea at this point in time to keep labeling them. We keep using that chemical formula there. And that means that there is one sodium and there is one chlorine, because there is no numbers indicated in the sodium chloride formula there at the top. Next up is water. This is usually an easy one. So water is supposed to be two hydrogens and one oxygen. So again, we've got one oxygen, which we're going to make different from the hydrogens, and we're going to label them very, very clearly. And that means that we have two hydrogen atoms and we have one oxygen atom. So there are three atoms in total, two hydrogen, one oxygen. Another one that should also be familiar to us is carbon dioxide. Again, we're going to draw one circle for carbon, two for oxygen, and we are going to label them very, very clearly, because we want the examiner to know that there's a difference between these ones. So if we can't use colors, we can't use patterns, then we make sure that we use a key when we use that scientific notation. And that means we're going to have one carbon and we are going to have two oxygens, but in this compound there will be three atoms. Okay, what happens when we get something like this? Now this is magnesium hydroxide, and now suddenly there's brackets. So what do we do with the brackets? Now that 2 that we see over there actually applies to both the oxygen and the hydrogen. So when we draw this one, and luckily you won't be asked to draw this one at grade 8 or 9 level, I'm just putting that picture in there so you can see what it looks like. We will have one atom of magnesium, two oxygens, and two hydrogens, because that little 2 applies to everything inside the bracket. So let's try another one. This one is copper phosphate. So now, as you can see there, it's getting very complicated with the diagram, but we don't have to worry about that too much. What we need to have a look at is those little numbers. So first up, we will have 3 coppers, because that little number 3 is only pointing to the copper. We will have 2 phosphorus, because that little bracket is including everything, and that little 2 is showing to the phosphorus. So we'll have 2 phosphorus, but that little 2 also applies to the oxygens. But there's already a 4 by the oxygens, which means that we are going to have to multiply the phosphorus by 2, but we're also going to apply the oxygen by 2, which means in this chemical formula we will have 2 phosphorus but 8 oxygens. I hope this helps. Thank you for visiting the Chaotic Classroom. See you next time.